Welcome to the Be Well podcast. Here we share real stories, have honest conversations, and offer practical wisdom to help moms prepare for pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and beyond. I'm your host, Candace Jackson. I am a birth and postpartum doula, childbirth educator, wife, and mama to two. Today, I'm so happy to have Tanisha here on our episode. So, Tanisha, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and also the work that you do as a program manager?
Hi everyone. Like she said, my name's Tanisha. I am from right outside of Richmond, Virginia. Um, I have had a plethora of jobs. I started off in news as a reporter. I have worked in customer service. Right now, I'm currently a project manager. I work for a consulting firm, and we work with clients mainly. Looking for strategic marketing help or either trying to migrate from like one marketing or CRM platform to another. So that
Okay.
is what I currently am doing.
All right. So, do you have any children?
I do.
Oh,
She is almost 2.5.
all right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, because I know you had a son before that. Let's
Mhm.
talk about your pregnancy with your son and how that went, and then we'll get into everything that transpired after birth and all of that.
Yeah. My husband and I got married June of 2019.
Okay.
And he's in the military, so we knew that he had orders to Guam. So got married June 2019, moved to Guam January 2020. And as I'm sure you and everyone else who will be listening knows that by mid-March of 2020, the world was shut down. And it didn't help that the world was shut down and we were on this island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So, um, I'd say about October, November of 2020 is when we decided, okay, we've been married a little over a year. Let's start trying. So, April of 2021, I found out I was pregnant. And I found out at 4 weeks. Not like because I was, testing all the time, which I know plenty of people do, been there. But yeah, just happened to find out at 4 weeks. Um, because we were on Guam and because we were military, um, the way they do that there is you see a family medicine doctor up until like your like final 4 weeks of pregnancy. And that's when you see an OB unless you're high risk. And the main reason for that is, well, I don't know the main reason, but like that's what they do. Um, so pregnancy was going fine. I even got cleared to fly back to Virginia at 16 weeks pregnant for my great grandmother's funeral. Stayed here for about a month. Flew back to Guam. We found out on a Monday this is in August now. Found out on a Monday that we were having a boy. We already had our name picked out, Kingston James. That following Sunday, I remember going to run errands and I was like, all right, I need to clean the house because my husband was at work. And I had really bad back pain with this pregnancy. And I was like, I cannot wait to just like go sit in a bathtub. Finish taking a bath, and I'm like, something's not, something feels weird. I would say like my back was pulsating. Um, didn't, I guess, try not to like think the worst. I do remember at some point um Googling like Braxton Hicks, and it said like if you were up and you're active, go lay down, or if you were laying down, get up and move around and it should go away. So I lay down to take a nap, and I mean I was still feeling the pulsating in my back. But it would still, I'd say maybe another like 2 hours before I
Mhm.
finally said something to my husband, like, hey, um, I think we need to go to the hospital. Or I don't even know if I
How,
said, yeah, go ahead.
how far along were you at this point?
21 weeks and 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I think a little bit of it was also me being in denial that something could be wrong and me not wanting to go to the hospital. But we get to the hospital, they send me up. He's not allowed to go in the room with me. The nurse, she's hooking me up to like the monitor to check my contractions. And she's like, "Oh, well, if you have like six or less in an hour, you should be fine." And I remember saying, "I know I'm about to have more than that. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean?"
Mm-hmm.
The doctor comes in. I think they probably did like a, exam. And she's like, "You're in labor." And my first thought was, how the heck am I about to call my mama and tell her I am in labor
Yeah.
at 21 weeks and 4 days? Um, so the hope was that they would be able to get the contractions to stop so that I could be medevaced off the island a week from then at 22 weeks, 5 days, because Guam has no NICU.
Oh,
Yeah, so the hope was like, I think they said at like 22 weeks, 5 days, they would have been able to give me some type of medicine to like stop or to, I guess, like prolong labor for 48 hours until they could get me off the. I believe that's what they said. Again, this point was kind of like, like my memory is real selective.
right.
Um, but yeah, so they moved me into a room, still contracting. And what's the thing that they get you to do when you are having contractions? They want you to stay hydrated. And I'm like, okay, well, now I have to use the bathroom every 5 seconds. So this is also not like, two, like both things were just equally uncomfortable.
Right.
Uh, excuse me. So at some point, I remember the contractions getting worse to the point where I was asking the nurse, like, can I please go to the bathroom? And she's like, no, that is your body telling you it's time to push. So she left the room. She came back in and she's like, the doctor wants to know if you want an epidural. And I'm like, yes. So they take me to L&D. Luckily, the anesthesiologist was still on base. Turned around, came, gave me the epidural. I felt great. Like pain wise, no pain.
Right.
But was definitely like praying and like listening to like my gospel playlist and like trying to stay positive and just trying not to let negative thoughts creep into my mind. Um we had the shift change happen, so I got another OB that morning, and I remember at some point him saying like, when you start feeling the contractions through the epidural, that's when you know the baby's coming. And also because I was so early, I only had to dilate 5 centimeters to
Okay.
deliver. So later on that Monday morning, I remember, I think it was like the OB, there was a neonatologist, a pediatrician, some other kind of doctor, and I think a chaplain. They came in. And, they're all lined up in front of the bed, like talking to me and my husband. And I remember the chaplain asking me, how does your soul feel right now? And I was like, ooh, that's a really good question. I was like, I don't think I've actually like taken the time to think about that. And as I was getting ready to respond, the doctor's like, hey, I'm about to take a peek because I see blood in your catheter. They lifted up the blanket. I had delivered.
Mm.
Yeah, and didn't feel a thing. So yeah, Kingston James was born at 11:53, no, excuse me, 11:54 a.m. on August 23rd, 2021. And my due date was January 1st, 2023.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he was Earthside until 1:18 p.m. and he weighed 1 pound, 1 ounce. So like weight wise, he was at a survivable weight for a preemie, but because he wasn't yet 23 weeks, like, his lungs and everything wasn't fully developed. So yeah,
Oh,
there's
bless your heart.
thanks. Yeah, it was a lot. It was definitely, I think the way I deal with things like that is I try to tell it from the perspective of somebody else. And I think I was actually telling somebody this story and they they said they like called me out on that, or I was telling a different story and they called me out on like, doesn't even seem like you're talking about something that happened to you. And I was like, I think that's the only way I'm able to actually say what happened.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember, I mean, there's anger. I felt a sense of like I had disappointed our parents. I think that was the main one. That was the biggest feeling that I had. And then I also felt very alone because I didn't know anyone who had had a similar situation that I could talk to and figure out how the heck I was gonna make it through.
Right.
And then also wanting to, like, I knew my husband and I had to lean on each other in order to get through it, but then also like being aware that he needed to also process and grieve in his own way. So not wanting to like, I think as women, we probably have a tendency to like make it about us a lot of times and being like, no, it's also, he's also having to go through this as well. And I don't want to, if he's having a moment where he's not thinking about it, I don't want to go in and burden him with my thoughts.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that was a time. The end of that week, my mom flew out and she stayed with us for like 2 months. And then his mom flew out as well and she stayed a couple of weeks, which that was helpful. There were definitely days where I was sitting on this very couch in my apartment in Guam with my head in my mom's lap and I was crying, like, how could this happen to me?
Right.
Um, yeah, the grief process was not a fun one at all.
Yeah. I would imagine it wouldn't be. It was nice that you had community surrounding you. You had your mom and your mother-in-law. So, what would you say for a mom that may not have the support system that you had? Like, in what ways do you feel that she can process that grief while not having the community surrounding her?
Um, it is very important from my experiences with grief. You cannot keep it in. You have to, even if you're not like, my husband's not a talker, but I was like, please, for the love of everything, like, I'm going to therapy. You don't have to go to therapy, but I need you to find somebody that you can talk to.
Right.
And if you don't have anyone that you can talk to, like, get pen and paper, pull up your computer, and get those thoughts out of your head because the longer they just stay jumbled up in there, the worse we feel. And I just know the weight that gets released from me when I get what is clouding my brain out.
Right.
And I'm able to actually like put it into words. Because sometimes you think like, oh, I'm angry. And then, you actually start to express what's going on. And you're like, no, I'm not angry. I'm hurt. Or I'm disappointed. Or I'm an emotion that I didn't really realize until I actually, forced myself to talk about it.
Right. Oh, wow. Okay. So you got pregnant with your daughter in 2023?
Oh, well, hold on. Pre the end of 2022.
Okay.
Um, so I had Kingston August 2023.
Mm.
The following April, like literally like the same timeline, just a year later, I found out I was pregnant for a second time.
So were you trying to get pregnant this second time?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, we were like, okay, we want to have another kid. Went to the doctor because I had spotting,
Mm.
and the doctor's like, "Oh, well, while you're here, like, do you want me to do a cervical exam?" And I'm like, yeah." So he's like, "Could you be pregnant?" I was like, "It's not out of the question." Does the pregnancy test. I'm pregnant, but I'm like, the timelines weren't matching up. I was like, I'm not spotting because I'm pregnant. I can tell you that right now. Um, Luckily, the OB that one of the female OB when I had my son, she said to me, she's like, you get pregnant again, you come straight to OB. She's like, you do not go to family med, you come straight to OB. And I don't know if anybody has tried like calling a military base, but like trying to get the number to the OB reception desk was a task in itself. And when I finally did, I get the receptionist and I'm like, listen, I need to see this doctor because I am pregnant. And she told me to come straight here. She takes a message. I probably had a call back within the hour and she's like, come in, get your HCG tested. Get my HCG levels tested. Come to find out it is an abnormal pregnancy because my levels were not doubling as they should. So they're like, hey, like, very, empathetic. And they were like, we really would like you to get scheduled for a DNC, but they didn't know if it was abnormal uterine or or ectopic. But I was
Okay.
like, you know what? Let's just, given it my first pregnancy, like, let's do the DNC. Had that, and then had to get my blood drawn again because if you have a DNC, and that terminated the pregnancy, then your HCG levels drop. Well, they didn't, which meant it was an ectopic
Mhm, mhm,
pregnancy.
mhm.
So then I had to go get, a methotrexate injection. So yeah, that was pregnancy number two.
Wow. All right. You have had a journey.
Just a little bit. Just
You
a little bit.
have.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so let's talk about your mentality and your mindset just during that time. So you ended up, you delivered, but your baby didn't survive the first time. And now you've had an ectopic pregnancy. So what is going through your mind? What is your husband thinking? Just how was everything during that time? It just seems like so much to deal with.
Yeah. He's not really one to talk about his feelings.
Okay.
The ectopic one just like pissed me off and annoyed me because I'm like, God, and what was the point here? Like I can not to say I have an understanding of why I lost my son, but it's like, okay, and this like what are we doing here? Like this the ectopic one, it wasn't even like I wasn't even pregnant long enough for it to have even mattered, which like very thankful that I had the doctors that I did that, a lot of women don't realize they have an ectopic pregnancy until they're, being rushed to the ER in excruciating pain. I didn't have to deal with that. But yeah, that one just really made me mad because I'm like, did this have to happen? Like I could have just not been pregnant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. All right, so now you get pregnant with your daughter.
hmm
So let's talk about that. So going from the ectopic pregnancy, the timeline between that and you getting pregnant with your daughter.
Yeah, so my ectopic one was April 2022. I found out I was pregnant with my daughter September 2022.
Okay.
So, and you have to like, there's like a waiting period. Um, so it actually wasn't that long for when I was able to start, or we were able to start trying to conceive again. We were scheduled to leave Guam January 2023, so we already knew like get me the heck off the island because I wouldn't have. It just made no sense, and the healthcare stateside is better. So get to Virginia in November 2022. Had my first stateside OB appointment that December. The sonographer does the ultrasound. She's like, it's still early because I think I was around 14 weeks. And she's like, I can't confirm, but I think it's a girl. And I always wanted a girl, so I was very excited. But again, trying not to like really get my hopes up. They asked if we wanted to do blood work to get the NIPT, where you find out if they can confirm the gender prior to 20 weeks, and it tests for like was it Down syndrome, trisomy 13, I think trisomy 18, which are like the three big genetic conditions. Well, fast forward to the day after Christmas, 2022, sitting at Kickback Jacks with my mom, waiting for my uncle and my grandpa to get there. And I get an email. It's my blood test results. It says I am having a girl and she is high risk for trisomy 13.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart sunk.
Mm-hmm.
My heart sunk. I had a full breakdown in the bathroom. To the point where my mom's like, okay, we're leaving. Like, yeah, yeah, let's get you out of here. And my husband was still in Guam at the time,
Okay.
and it was a 14-hour time difference. So I also had to like I had to call him and tell him this on FaceTime, which um not a not a great conversation. He was
Right.
not. He was very much like, no, this is not, no, like you're no, not happening.
Mhm.
Which is kind of how I felt too. Like the third time, like God, like I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did to piss you off, but I need you to stop. I really need you to stop. I need to be on your favorite list. Um, Went in later that week, met with a high risk OB who, excuse my French, was a complete not nice man. I won't curse. He was a not nice man. His bedside manner was horrible. He did nothing to like comfort me. I'm literally terrified that I'm about to lose my third child. And he's just like, yeah, well, if we had 10 women who had the same, test results as you, only three of them would be a false positive. And I'm like, and like you think it's okay to like say it just like that. He's like, yeah, not sure if you know what trisomy 13 is. So like I printed off some stuff for you. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, yes, I know what it is. I've spent the entire time from, getting the results till now Googling. Like, yes,
Right.
yes,
Right.
yes, I'm aware. Um, Fast forward, and of course, this was the end of December now. So like Christmas and New Year's are into play. So I'm having to wait kind of like an extra day to be able to see somebody. So I think it was maybe like January 2nd, January 3rd. I go in for the anatomy scan.
Mm-hmm.
And they were also going to do what is it? The CVS, CSV, where they test the amniotic fluid
Hmm.
to confirm trisomy 13 or not. And went to see a different high risk doctor this time. And the sonographer, she's doing the ultrasound. And I look at her and I'm like, listen, I know you can't like tell me anything concrete, but like, can you tell me anything?
Hmm.
And she says, everything I see looks awesome. Sigh of relief.
Right.
But my mom and me, like huge sigh of relief. Because I also was not expecting I was expecting her to say, well, we're gonna wait till the doctor comes in.
Hmm.
So the fact that she was even like, everything I see looks great. The OB comes in, he also does the ultrasound and he looks at the sonographer. He's like, yeah, I'm not seeing anything that's consistent with trisomy 13. So that was January 2023. And on May 31st, my daughter was born. And
God was
she,
testing your faith, girl.
yeah, and I need him to not test somebody else, sir. Not me. I'm done. I'm
Yes.
all tested out.
That is a blessing. That's a blessing. And I know you were so relieved. Okay, so let's go. After you have that scan and everything. So how was your pregnancy onward? So up until like labor, how was pregnancy for you? Did you have any like abnormal things that was going on? Was it pretty regular normal pregnancy?
Yeah, despite the like false positive with the pregnancy with my daughter, like it was a perfectly normal pregnancy. I mean, I gained a ton of weight, and was hungry all of the time. But yeah, it was a normal pregnancy, and it's just like, okay, if I had not gotten that, if I hadn't elected to do the nip, like my experience would have been so much different because I just would have been like, yeah, I know I'm 6 months and I look like I'm pregnant with twins due tomorrow. Like I get it. But yeah, so aside from that, it was fine. Now, even though they kind of, they told me they didn't see anything on the scan, that doesn't mean that I still wasn't concerned about it, which is also,
Right.
like testing your faith because it's like, yeah, but should I have gotten should I have let them test that amniotic
Yeah,
fluid?
yeah.
Like, should I have done that? Which,
Right.
yeah, they were like, oh, I did ask the OB. I said, if I were your daughter, what would you say? And he's like, honestly, I think you're fine. So that's why I ultimately chose not to do it. Um, but no, there were still some days where I freaked myself out and I was like, what if she's not okay? What if she's not okay?
Mm-hmm. I think that's normal to feel that way, especially after everything that you had gone through prior
Yeah.
to that and getting to that point. But that's a blessing. I'm glad that, everything turned out fine with her. So when you got to the point of being in labor, so how did that happen? Did you go into spontaneous labor? Did you have to be induced at the hospital? And how many weeks were you at the time that you went into labor?
She was a C-section baby because she was
Okay.
breech and I had an anterior placenta.
Okay.
So even if she had tried, I think there was just not enough space. And she was also 8 pounds, 5 ounces.
Oh,
So
she's a little chunky baby.
she was a chunk. She was a chunk.
Oh, that's good though. Okay, so how was the experience of having a C-section? Because I know so many moms are terrified of C-sections. So tell me a little bit about your experience with the C-section and then a little bit about your recovery afterwards.
Yeah. My C-section was fine. My mom had a C-section with me, and I know that that can also be like a precursor to somebody else needing a C-section. So wasn't like 100% surprised when they said C-section. The one thing I was nervous about was when I had my son, the anesthesiologist gave me the epidural while I was having a contraction. So it was just like pain on pain. So I was concerned about like, okay, I'm not contracting. I'm just gonna be sitting here and y'all are gonna stick this epidural in my back. Like I was concerned for how that would hurt. They gave me the epidural and I was like, that's it. So that's another thing. I am definitely pro epidural. I'd get one. I'd get one whenever I could if they let me, just to not have any pain.
Yeah.
Um, so that was fine. It is very annoying that after you have a C-section, they come in your room and they press on your stomach every, I don't know, hour or so. That's not comfortable. Um, it was, however, very nice that for the first 12 hours, my husband had to do all the diaper changes. And I got to sit there and, you know, relax.
Yeah.
Um, I will say some surprising things. Like after we got home from the hospital, like um, my feet did swell. Um, I also had um, bad acid reflux my third trimester of pregnancy. So there was one time, and it lingered over until some postpartum. So there was one time where I'm like laying on the couch, feet up, trying to get my swelling to go down, and I like choked. That was bad. Um, I don't know how, but did not, I forced myself not to cough the entire first week because I heard how painful that was. And I was just like, I really don't want to do that. Um, but I mean, I like would I want another C-section? Not particularly.
Mhm.
But I mean, I fortunately I had I think as good of an experience as anyone can have with a C-section. It's definitely not a cop out. I definitely, there are times where you still kind of feel a twinge and you're like, what the heck is that? I don't particularly like my little pouch that I have from having a C-section. But it there's my experience was a good one. It was safe. It wasn't a bad one.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear because you hear a lot of terrifying things about C-sections and women trying to avoid them like a plague. So I'm glad that you can offer up your experience with it being a positive one for the
Yeah,
listeners. All right. So you get home, you got a new baby. What was that like? It's just like, you got a baby. Now what?
exactly. It's like, where's the manual? Like, what? And then, I was exhausted. And then, she's crying. trying to figure out the whole milk thing. Um, no, it was exhausting. I tell people like I think I blacked out the first 6 months of her life because I was so sleepy. Um, yeah, just trying to figure out like I'm a person who likes routine, so having this new human being who routine is nowhere in her can't even grasp a concept of it where you think like okay well last night we got like 3 consistent hours of sleep maybe we should do that again and then this time it's like the next night it's like every 45 minutes they're waking up and then trying to figure out what does this cry mean over this cry and you know the hungry cry versus the I'm wet cry versus the gas cry. And then also trying to work with your partner to figure out, who's gonna do what and how are we gonna like, are we gonna do shifts? Are we both gonna try and sleep at the same time? And then we alternate who gets up, who's gonna feed her. On top of that, she did not latch.
Mm.
So I pumped exclusively for 4 months. Kudos to any woman who goes longer than that. That was all I had in me. Um, yeah, and I was an oversupplier as well.
Oh, let's talk about that. So, I have not had the privilege of talking to another woman who has exclusively pumped, especially for 4 months like that, and then being an oversupplier because that was my reality. I exclusively pumped my oldest for 2 years straight. And I
Hmm.
was an oversupplier as well. So, let's talk a
God
little
bless
bit
you.
about this. So, what were some of the challenges, especially after you realized that she wouldn't latch? And then what were some of the challenges that you had with just pumping? Because it's a labor of love to do that. It's a labor of love to breastfeed anyway, but to take it a step further and pump is like hats off to you because you
When
did that.
that lactician told me I had to pump 12 every 2 hours. I
That's
wanted,
what created the oversupply.
yeah, yeah. So, not gonna say she was wrong, but in my case, I did not need to pump every 2 hours, but for a while I did. My biggest challenge was I thought, oh, I'm gonna get the wearable pump, and that's gonna be easier. I should have got that one and sat there and plugged it into the wall. Um, and then, because I got the wearable one through insurance, I wasn't about to go out and like buy a $500 or however, much a regular pump is. So I was hand pumping for the
Oh,
majority of it too.
wow.
Yeah, I had two of the hand pumps and that's how I was getting it done. Um, Fortunately, we found out like we brought her home on a Friday. That Monday we went back in and she had dropped, weight. And that's when they were
Mhm.
like, okay, we're gonna have to like get you in with lactation or like yeah, lactation and all that. But I think that like Saturday or Sunday night, she was crying, 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 crying. We couldn't figure out. We put some milk in a bottle, gave it to her, and she sucked it down. So I think we had kind of realized like, oh, okay, she may not actually be feeding.
Getting, yeah.
So yeah, not having like a good pump. Um, then also I guess trying to figure out like when to pump.
Hmm.
Because it's like you want to hold your baby, but then you also need to pump, but then you also want to shower, but then you
Hmm.
also want to sleep. So in the middle of the night, it's like, okay, feed her, then pump. Then by the time I've done both and washed the pump, well, she's already been sleeping an hour. And now
Hmm.
by the time I actually fall asleep, she's up crying.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
trying to get that rhythm down. Um, Once I realized I didn't have to pump as often, it did get easier. And by the end of it, I was only pumping about 3 or 4 times a day, and I could get about 40 ounces.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So, especially with being an oversupplier, how was it trying to wean yourself?
Mm, maybe a week. I think because I was going such long stretches in between pumping, I think that made it easier.
Okay.
Um, I honestly think I was just happy to be over it, that I was like, whatever, I'll take the pain. This will go away. I don't, I think there was probably some cabbage involved. Uh, but no, it wasn't too bad. Um, yeah, I was just ecstatic to not have to like say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm down to go, but let me pump first," or let me make sure I'm bringing, my pump in case, we're out longer than expected. I will say it was like the flip side of having an exclusively bottle fed baby was that anybody could feed her. I also had a friend who had her firstborn a couple months before I had my daughter, and she was like, "You don't have to heat up milk." And I was like, "Huh?" So that was a game changer that we never heated up her milk. We just gave it to her right out of the fridge because that also took time.
Hmm.
Or that was less time that like we didn't have to, spend feeding her. And it was also nice because I could just fix a bunch of, formula or, pre-make bottles and just, she's crying, here you go.
Yeah. Oh, you said so much good stuff. I love that we were able to talk about the pumping and everything.
Yeah.
All right. So, what advice do you have for moms that have gone through similar situations, so losses, and they're feeling like, I don't know what to expect with this journey. And they're just kind of a little bit unsure, kind of scared, kind of angry, all those emotions that you felt. What do you want them to know, especially if they are pregnant with their first baby? Well, I don't want to say first baby. They actually have a viable pregnancy that's everything looking pretty good, because I know for myself after I miscarried, I was scared, I was terrified. I didn't want to see a doctor or anything because I didn't want any bad news. So what advice do you have to that mom who has had miscarriages?
Yeah. Um, I will say, first of all, you're not alone. And it is important to realize that you are not alone. And it is also important to realize that in the day and age that we live in right now with social media, we are seeing that, it seems like so many women are getting pregnant so easy, or, it's very easy to compare and say, "Oh my God, I wish I could just get pregnant easy like she does." What you don't know is that all three of her babies had colic, right? So, yeah, we're putting on a front for social media, but behind closed doors, like it's also not easy. I will say, I think when I finally like stopped trying is when I had the viable pregnancy. Um, it is it's not easy, and it's okay that it's not easy, and it is also okay that you're scared, and it is you your feelings are valid. You're scared and emotional because you care and because you want it to work out. But even if it doesn't, you are not a failure.
Mhm.
And also, as hard and as long as it may have taken you to get to the point you are now, the hard part does not stop after birth.
Right.
Um, but hang in there. Hang in there. It's coming. It's coming.
Oh, that's beautiful. All of that. Yes. The hard part definitely comes, but it's a beautiful journey. So, what are some things that you're doing in this season of your life for self care? So, what does that look like for you with the baby that's 2.5 years old? You're working and your wife and all of those different things. So, what are some things that you're doing to take care of yourself?
Yeah, so I have real my daughter has really great grandparents. She's actually with them right now. Even though we moved, we're like about 2 hours from home. So like we
Okay.
can meet them in the middle and do a handoff. So I'd say since she was about a year, I maybe only have her like 2 weekends out of the month because she'll be with grandparents. Now again, my husband's in the military, so I don't want anybody saying, "Where is dad?" Dad is here, but dad was stationed overseas. Um, but yeah, so being able to have that support system and people who like I don't even have to ask, who come to me and are like, "Hey, can we get her this weekend? Can we get her this weekend?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, go get her." But then it's also good for, my daughter to be around her grandparents, good for her grandparents to be around her.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm very lucky. I also I like to do my hair. I was just having a conversation with somebody about this yesterday. Like, give me 2 hours where I can like do something with my hair and I will be so happy. That's very therapeutic to me. I'm also a TV girl. Like, let me sit here with some wine and binge TV and I'm snug. I'm good.
That is good. It's so important to have that support system to lean on. And moms will go crazy if they're constantly momming all the time. It's like you were a person, an individual before you had your
Mhm.
baby, and you still need to get some glimpses of that. So I'm glad that you're doing all of those things and you have your parents to lean on to be a support system for you.
Yeah.
Well, Tanisha, I'm so happy to have you, and I love the story that you told. It was a hard story, but it was beauty at the end of everything. So for that, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
So if Tanisha's story spoke to you, please share it with another mom. And if so, please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, I'm Candace Jackson, reminding you that your story and your voice matter more than you know. Until next time, be well, mama.